Hey, so St. Patrick's Day is coming up, so I thought we would make one of my favorite Irish pub kind of foods, and we're gonna have a little shepherd's pie. So here it is, and you can watch how to make it. So I love shepherd's pie, and my favorite shepherd's pie in the entire world is from Kevin Barry's in Savannah. Kevin Barry's closed a few years ago, and kind of broke my heart because I don't get to eat their shepherd's pie anymore, which is really sad. But I make my own, and I do it different probably almost every time I cook it. Sometimes, like as I'm cooking things, I will throw beer in. Sometimes I'll throw a little red wine in. I'm actually probably gonna throw some red wine in today when I cook down these vegetables, kind of deglaze the pan a little bit, and then throw some wine in, and then put the meat in to brown. Just gives it a little richer flavor. You can do it, you don't have to. This is my thing. I cook things and sometimes I don't measure anything. And today, this is one of those great things where you don't have to measure anything. I've also already cooked my mashed potatoes. They're actually leftovers from a couple days ago. Mashed potatoes and rice are two things that I always cook extra of whenever I make them, because they come in handy for a lot of things, and then I don't have to deal with cooking a side for most other things. So I'm just chopping up my vegetables and trying to get these carrots pretty small. I'm going to cook the carrots and the onions, and then I'll throw the meat in. Okay, so this time I used green onions, and I'm gonna use a small shallot. You can use yellow onions or whatever you've got, definitely some kind of onions. Sometimes I use onions and garlic. Sometimes I just use garlic. Sometimes I just use onions. It's all dependent upon what I've got in the house and what's easy. And as I'm cooking all these veggie things down, I also have my peas and corn over here. The peas and corn are just canned. You could use fresh if you really want to, that's fine. But you know what? This is like fast meal that actually will be good for a lot of people in a short amount of time. So I'm just using canned, and it makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so I'm gonna go throw these in my pan over there. I am cooking in the same pan that I'm going to bake in. It makes it easier. You can cook, your meat and your veggies and then throw everything into like a glass pan or something to bake. But if you've got something like a roaster that you can use on the stovetop and in the oven, that makes life easier. It's just one less dish to deal with. So we'll do this now. So I'm just gonna throw a little bit of oil in here and cook my veggies down. Once these get pretty soft, I'm gonna throw in my spices. Today I am using thyme, rosemary, I've got some sea salt and some coarse ground black pepper. You can use these things if you really want to. You can spice it up, put some cayenne in there, make this your own. Make this whatever you enjoy eating. But these are my favorites for this dish. So the veggies are getting pretty aromatic. I am going to throw just a little bit of red wine in there, kind of let that cook down. And then I'm gonna throw my beef in. So oftentimes in the UK and Australian things, you'll find that instead of beef, they're having lamb in this. We Americans, we eat a lot of beef, right? Especially here in the Midwest, we're beef people. But you can use ground turkey, ground chicken. If you're into veggies, you could probably use some kind of tofu. It's, kind of whatever protein you want to use. I prefer beef and lamb. Those are my favorites for this, but you can, do what you need to do. So we're just gonna brown this. And as I do this, I'm kind of pushing the veggies off to the side so they're not cooking quite as much as the meat is. And then I'm just gonna throw my spices in a minute. I've got maybe half a teaspoon of all of these spices. As always, do what you feel is best. You can use more or less, and like I said, you can use different spices. These just happen to be my favorites. I'm gonna add a little more red wine, just because I want it. And when I've got quite a bit of juice in here, like I do now, sometimes I like to add this crazy stuff. This is bouillon. It's better than bouillon. And this one's a roasted garlic base. It's basically just a soup base. But sometimes I like to put a little bit of that in there. Just adds a little depth of flavor. But make sure you've got enough liquid in there so that kind of melts down. And on the side, I've always got, I'm using tapioca flour, but you can just use regular flour or cornstarch. If you've got a lot of liquid, which this isn't terrible, but if you have a lot of liquid, it's not a bad idea to just have a little bit flour on hand to kind of make a bit of a gravy, if you will. I don't have tons, so I'm not real worried about it. Okay, so I'm going to turn this down a little bit, and you know, I think I'm going to put just a little bit of this in here to soak up a little bit of that grease. I like a little grease as it cooks though, to be honest, and there's not a lot because this is a pretty low fat beef, but there's just a little more than I want in there, so I'm just going to use this to kind of thicken some of that up. And you know what, you can use canned carrots too. I used fresh because that's what I had. But if you use canned carrots, don't cook those first, just do the onions first. Everything looks nice and brown, so I'm gonna throw in my peas. It's literally just a can of peas and a can of corn. And I'm gonna mix all this together. So I have my beef and I've got my veggies and everything's together. You can do this, like I said, in 2 different pans, but I really hate doing dishes. So this is all one pan. And these are garlic rosemary mashed potatoes that I made a couple of, maybe 2 days ago. And I'm just going to pat those down on top. Hopefully I have enough to cover it. And then this is all gonna go in the oven. So you don't really have to worry about those canned vegetables and like cooking them very long, because they're going to warm up in the oven and you don't need to, you don't need to deal with anything extra. This is all about making a fast, easy meal, right? Okay, so I have covered everything with mashed potatoes, and we're going to throw this into a 400-degree oven for about 10 to 15 minutes. Really, it's more just about getting everything warm, and you want the potatoes to get like a nice golden brown on top. So when that happens, we're all done. So it's been a little more than 15 minutes, and my shepherd's pie should be all nice and golden on top, little brown bits. Listen, if it doesn't get nice and golden on top, you can always stick it under the broiler for just a couple minutes to kind of amp up that golden brown on your mashed potatoes. There you go, quick and easy shepherd's pie for St. Patrick's Day or any day.